For our president to call every Somali garbage, it's unacceptable. It's very unacceptable. And majority of the Somali leaders and communities are in the same page at that. We have over 80 to 100,000 Somalis that live in Minnesota, which is the largest population outside of Mogadishu, Somalia, anywhere in the world, living here in Minnesota, where I am right now. And to have our president um, call us garbage is not acceptable. My children who are born here are not garbage. And I don't accept him saying that about our Somali community and our Somali people here. We're not going back anywhere. This is our home. So America is our home. My children were born here. This is their home. We're not going back. So if anybody needs to apologize, it's Donald Trump, and apologize to his citizens. Like I said, 90% or more are American citizens. And the TPS status members of our community make up less than about 700, 800, a few hundred out of the hundred thousands of Somali Americans that live here in the US. So if he's talking about illegal immigration and criminals, and if we do the statistics of that, right, we're talking about less than 1% of our community. And every community in the US has bad people. So if bad people do something in the US, we don't say the white people need to go back to their country. Where do they go back, right? This is our country. Like America, this is my country. I was naturalized citizen here. My children are born here and raised here. We have homes here. We have businesses here. Where do we go back? This is our home. So I don't know what he's talking about. If he says, well, Somalis are committing fraud, right? Let's say he's saying Somalis are committing fraud here in Minnesota. There are few people who committed fraud. Not all hundreds of thousands of Somalis in the US committed fraud. Donald Trump committed fraud. Are we saying all white men are garbage? No, we're not. It was prosecuted for fraud. And we're not calling every white person in America garbage, right? So it's not okay for him to call every Somali American who lives in the US garbage because a few of our members decided to do something bad and commit fraud. That is on them, and they're being prosecuted and they're getting justice. And that's how it goes. It goes through the court. It goes through the justice system. It does not need to go to the president and be emotional about what's happening about 20 to 30 people who committed fraud out of 100,000 people who have not committed fraud. And again, it's emotions that he's going off of. It's his rhetoric. And he wants to cause fear amongst Americans. And we can see beyond that. We Americans can see beyond what he's doing. He wants to cause fear. He wants to cause distraction from what's going on. And we all know what he's doing. And the Somalis they're not all criminals. They're model citizens. Like I said earlier, we have over 20 years that we've been in Minnesota. We've established hospitals. We have established schools. We have established clinics. We have established transportation companies. So there's plenty of companies that exist. They're also in the caring careers like doctors, nurses, assistant livings, all of that. So if you say all of those Somalis to go back, who's going to take care of the elders? Who's going to take care of the kids that are in the daycares? Who's going to do all those work that you don't have anybody doing right now that the Somalis are doing? So he needs to sit back and get off his high horse and apologize to the Somali community immediately. Out of the 100,000 people that live here that are Somali, about 400 people are on that TPS status. And when we look at TPS status in America, the TPS status are people who are temporary protective status, who have not committed a crime. They got those temporary protective status through legal means that is set by the immigration policies of the US, right? So they're not criminals. If Donald Trump is going after criminals, he's going after the wrong people. TPS status people did not commit crime. They're under temporary protective status for a reason, and the immigration policies that existed gave them that status because they didn't commit any crime, and they were waiting to get legal status. And that's part of the immigration process here in the U.S. Some of the families are scared because it's a matter of time before ICE comes and knocks on their door and take their maybe it's a father, right? One of the fathers who's providing for 8 children who are American, right? And the father is on temporary protective status. And this is one of the cases that I'll give you. A father who's taking care of his children. He hasn't committed any crimes. He doesn't even have parking or traffic violations. He's living his life. He's paying his taxes. He's taking care of his children. These children are not on welfare. They're not committing any fraud. So once ICE comes and takes their father away, their only livelihood, now these children are going to be dependent on government aid. And this is what's going to happen. Majority of the people that he's coming after are working good people and taking care of their families. That's all they're doing. Minnesota has a fraud problem across DHS. And it's not just Somalis. It's, and the Somalis who've committed fraud, you can count how many of them, right? And those investigations are going, those have to be left alone to the justice system. And for the DHS, Department of Human Services, to investigate and find who are doing bad things, and bring justice to them. Bring that money back that was stolen, that was fraudulently taken. And the problem is that the news and the media, whenever a Somali person commits a fraud, or his company or her company commits a fraud, they put out the person's name who committed the fraud, what ethnicity they are, and they never talk about their business, right? If they talk about their business, then it's something else. Their business committed the fraud, and they're part of the fraud, and they're being brought to justice. When a non-Somali person commits a fraud here in Minnesota, we have plenty of examples. New Way is one of them who committed millions of dollars, more than the Feeding Our Future fraud group. And they just made a settlement of $18 million recently, and nobody from that company was arrested or put to jail. So there's a white privilege going on in that situation where if you're dark or brown skin, we're gonna put you on blast and say your ethnicity and say you as an individual were committing the fraud. Yes, the New Way has people who are committing fraud, and they need to be brought to justice. Which is the company that was providing their social services like mental behaviors and different things that they were doing for people in Minnesota. They committed over millions of dollars of fraud. Nobody's talking about the owners who are white, who committed those fraud. We talk about the Somalis because that's easy for them to talk about. It's a small community. We can point at them and say they committed fraud. And the people who committed fraud, they need to be brought to justice. It's a few people, and they need to be brought to justice. And I believe our government is doing that. The state is working on bringing those people to justice and weeding out those apples, the bad apples who are causing fraud and committing fraud. In this country, if you send money to terrorist organizations, you'll be prosecuted. And our government does a really good job of finding those people who do that. Just because the banking system in Somalia has a really good banking system. They have a central bank. They have a banks. They have many banks in Somalia where you can wire money to, right? We have something called hawala or money transfer companies, just like Western Union. They're all registered in the U.S. You cannot send money without providing your ID, without providing your employment. To all the Somali transfer companies, money transfer companies, are more strict, I believe, than the other non-Somali money transfer companies, because of all the regulations and things. I've never had to go to Western Union and they ask me to bring my pay stubs or my bank statements. The Somali money transfer companies will ask you for your bank statements to see where you're getting your money from. And they will ask you for your employment before they even send the money to whoever you want to send it to. And if you are sending money to terrorist organizations, in this country, that's prosecutable crime. And there have been people who have been prosecuted for that. So I don't believe any Somali Americans who love their country and love themselves would ever want to send money to a terrorist organization. Again, we have bad apples. Every community has bad apples that will do these things, and those people are brought to justice. Just go back and go to the U.S. Attorney's Office and see how many people were prosecuted last year for these crimes. Is it on a scale of what the media is saying? Millions of dollars or billions of dollars going to terrorists from Minnesota or going from the Somali community? That's a lie. It's a straight out lie. Because that's not what's happening. Yeah, we have family, our uncles, our aunties, our family members who are in Somalia that are in need that we support. Yes, we support them through the hard money that we earn from our work that we work for. Yes, we can support our family members who are struggling, who are not doing better than us, who are back home, and we're not gonna let them struggle by not providing for them. We provide for our family. This is part of our religion. It's part of our culture to provide for our mothers, our aunties, our siblings. If they don't have it, we are the means for them. So we send money to our family members, which is okay. Other communities here in the U.S. We have new communities that arrived from Ukraine, from Afghanistan, from other countries. They do the same thing. They send money back home to the families they left behind, which is absolutely acceptable because if you're doing better and your family members are struggling, you would want to support your family members. And the idea that every Somali person is sending money to a terrorist organization, that is in itself is garbage. That's a lie and garbage in itself, that Somalis are sending money to terrorist organizations outside of the US. Whoever said that was trying to cause chaos and harm. And this happens, if we look at I used to be a politician. I used to be a city council member in the city of St. Paul, and I know how politics works in this country. Whenever we get close to an election year, that it's very heated, they like to get a group of people that they can point at and say, just because of this group, the Democrats are doing this or the Republicans are doing that. So it's sad to say, but they're using us as a pawn to for their own political gain. So this rhetoric that's going on, it's about politics. It's a political stunt that Donald Trump is doing, that the Republicans are doing, because these allegations are coming from them, and it's straight out political stunt. And you look back in history, the last few elections, the number one issue that they talk about is fraud in the Somali community. When we get close to a very heated midterm elections that's going to be happening soon, they use the Somalis as a pawn to use as, oh, they're committing fraud, and it's only a few people who are committing crimes like that. The state legislators need to be held accountable for letting this happen. There are too many loopholes. There are too many problems. There are too many places where people can commit fraud. They need to make it tighter for people not to be able to commit fraud, whether it be Somali, white, Asian, brown, whatever ethnicity they might be who are committing those fraud because of the loophole that are out there. Yes, Governor Walz is responsible. The legislators in the House, Republican and Democrats, they're responsible. This happened under their watch. They're the ones responsible for taxpayer money and programs that are funded by taxpayers' money. They need to be held accountable for all the money that was lost. And not just the Somali community. Just because 30 or 40 of the 100,000 of Somalis in Minnesota committed, not all of them committed fraud, right? 30 to 40 of them committed fraud, right? Why are we prosecuting all Somalis and putting all Somalis in one basket and calling them garbage, right? So hold the people who are in office who let this happen under their watch for the last 10 years. They need to be held accountable.
Jelajahi cara baru mendapatkan informasi. Download MetroTV Extend sekarang.